you see anything?
But I think the first is not can see anything because it's not don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Don't know. We
Yeah.
don't have is so many color and
Yes.
don't know is
You can't see it.
damage. Yes.
Yes.
Cannot see.
Yes. And then sometimes an artist might sign it here,
Yeah.
but there's nothing. But sometimes they might sign it on the reverse.
Yeah.
So will we turn over back and see? Yeah?
It,
So let's safely turn it over. So this time we'll just do what we did before. Swap hands.
but it's we turn have it so many is damage.
Yes.
Yes.
So that might be the purpose. It's very damaged.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And you don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Is there any other information here that can tell you something about the value of the work, like who the artist might be or when it was painted? Can you see any information here?
Yeah.
What does that say up there? I can't.
I think it's not good pack. And,
Yes.
Not good is temperate
Yes.
in the building.
Yes, in the temperature of the
Yes.
building, yes. So here it's very dusty,
Have is
it's
many
brittle,
water.
yes, water damage. But we're up to the first question. We want to know, what is the work? What does that say up here?
It's the style to artist. สุทานการออนเป็นศิลปินอะไม่ but it's a name the artist and color number.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So we should write that down. Can we write down that artist's name? Oh, also, see how I keep sticking to this? So we should, turn over because we don't want the painting to stick to it. Yeah. But- so does anyone know that artist? Anyone know of that artist? Anyone heard of that artist?
สมัย
สมัยเหรอคะอาจารย์ออนค่ะ
ใกล้เคียงนะหรือสกลหรืออะไรเขียนบัตร
I think it'sสมัย very near for name สมัย
Yeah.
ไหมสมัย
หรือว่าเขามีเนมข้างหน้าไงเขาอาจจะเซ็นข้างหน้าไม่มีใช่ไหมคะ
ใช่
So it might be that we need to do some more research about that artist. Maybe they are well known, but maybe not. Maybe we just don't know. But our main, so what do you think the main priority is? It's unknown and also it's very damaged and you can't see. Yeah? So what were some other questions on this? Oh, thank you. Okay. So do we think it should be treated? Do we all agree that it should be treated, or what do you think? Like once it's treated, where will it go? Like what's its importance? What its value?
ช่วย translate
should be treated ก็คือควรที่จะต้องสงวนดูแลไหมซ่อมแซมไหมอะไรอย่างเงี้ยถ้าอย่างถ้าต้อง
but I want to know is him important artist
Don't know.
same to me I don't know and
How would you find out more? How would you find out more if the artist? How do you find out about the
but
artist?
I think some want to anything clear I have a question is him important artist and him have is a movement but history in Thailand.
Yes, could
Yes.
be. We don't know. Yeah. So if it belongs to an institution, you might look at the catalogue, any art historical records. You might look up his name, try and find out more about the artist, all of that sort of background research. Yeah? So,
ควรจะทำรีเสิร์ช
ใช่ค่ะต้องแบบ Yes, I agree to you. Is
Yeah.
any people can go to research him important in artist in Thailand
Yeah.
and we have
Yeah.
movement history in,
Yeah.
in Thailand. Yeah.
because there's no point to do the conservation if it's not going to be of very much value. So that's always the first step. Is it important to treat, and why would we do it? So just say we say it is important, yeah, because it is very damaged and potentially it can add more information, to history, art history.
Yeah.
And just say here, another question is the stakeholders' intentions and goals. So in this instance, who are the stakeholders? Who are the owners at this workshop?
ใครคือเจ้าของใครคือต้องหาคำตอบว่าเจ้าของใคร
Go to research.
ศิลปากร University
Yeah, it's Silpakorn University. And at this workshop with Silpakorn University, what is the main goal? What are we trying to do?
แล้วก็เป้าหมายของเราที่เรา
เป้าหมายของเราก็ learn to
Great, I think you just said it, learn. Yeah? We're here to learn. So that's what we say it has educational value. Yeah? So the stakeholders of Silpakorn, and we want educational value. We're using this object for that purpose, to learn. Yeah? So we've done step 1. And then so you look at step 2, and then you start looking at all those material things, which you start looking at first. Like, what do we know about current practices? Where do we know the artwork has been? Any evidence in the materials that can tell you about its environment? And before we were talking about water damage, dirt, temperature, yeah? So you start running through those types of questions, and we're trying to get as much information as we can from the object, from looking at the object, yeah? So if you just want to discuss that amongst you, yeah, and then you can work through step 2, and I'll get to the next group. Yeah? Okay. Thank you. Kapunka. Oh, you're on this one. So you heard me there, and we're working through these steps. So we want to know, is it important to treat? What is the goal of conservation, if we do conservation? Is it worth doing conservation? You want to know something about what that artwork is, who's it by, is the artist significant, is doing conservation of this work, is it then going to allow it to be exhibited or whatever, so then more people can learn about the artist and their technique. So all of the really understanding agreed goals and aims for the treatment of this work. So here's the name of the artist. Do we know anything about that artist? And you,
Maybe from Japan.
and if you don't,
in the back, there's something right on.
yep. So when we lift it, we always lift it from the longest side. So here, best way is to tilt it up. Yeah. Swap hands. Yeah. Now I can't read any of this, so.
No, me too.
Yeah.
ใช้ได้อะไรสักอย่างเราใช้ Google Translate ได้ไหมไม่ได้เขาเขียนอะไรก็ไม่รู้แต่ไม่ใช่ชื่อเขาหรอก
อันนี้มัน
Oh, who can read Chinese?
น่าจะญี่ปุ่น
Is it do you think it is a Thai artist, isn't it?
I think not.
No?
I think it's Japanese.
Oh, do you? What does that say up there? F20.
F20. I think about the size of the face.
Yeah. This is, anyone know what type of wood this one is?
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure about the type of ไม้อัดมัน
I'm going to smell it. This is cedar wood. Yeah. Also, Can we just pick it up? Oh, it's very light, yeah. Because cedar is actually a very light sort of wood as well. Yeah, so I think you're right. You were saying it could be a Japanese, or not necessarily a Thai artist. Interesting. I'm starting to pull out the art historical aspects now. It's a cedar one. It's a European. See how it says it's a European stretcher? This F20 is related to the size, because in France particularly, they would give their sizes of their stretchers with these numbers, F20, etc. So it's telling me something about possibly a Japanese artist, possibly working in Europe, possibly in France, with the cedar stretcher. So starting to unravel this, a bit of a history in relation to the materials they were working at. So that could be significant for step one, to try and work out some of the art historical sort of relationships and things. There's a lot unknown, but potentially it could be interesting to investigate. So you sort of use this initial step one to work out, is it worth even doing it in the first place? Yeah? But if you go to the third question, stakeholder, and that being the organisers of this event, so Silicon University, and then like I was talking about there, we're all here to learn, so it's for educational value, so in this case, yes, yeah, we would say so. So after step one, the idea is to have agreement within the team. It is important, it is going to add value to say the institution, the stakeholder needs it done, it's going to meet certain goals and aims. And for that to be a shared sort of decision, so it's not just doing it for the sake of it and it's not worth it, yeah, it's going to have some value, yeah? So we've come to that agreement, and then we go to step two. And if you, as a group, you can start working through some of those questions. And you don't know the answers many times, but it's a process of working out what you know and don't know. And if you don't know it, how do I investigate it further to find out more? Yeah. Okay, I'll leave you. Yeah? Okay.
ไม้นี่คาดว่าน่าจะเป็นไม้สักไหมคะ
I think you know what you're doing, I can tell. Keep going. Congratulations. Oh, you need help. It's not easy, is it? So what questions? It's sometimes you know things, sometimes you don't know things. So it's a bit like troubleshooting or a bit of a map. You write down everything that you know and then everything that you don't know, and then you can start asking more questions. So Supanza just then said, need help. So what are some questions?
I don't know what is a proprietary name. What is it?
Oh, proprietary name.
Yeah.
Proprietary name is a commercial name.
Ah.
Yeah, commercial name. So, something like this box, it is acrylic paint, but actually the commercial name is Liquitex. Yeah? Yeah. Oh, and then another proprietary name might be Liquitex Basics, because then sometimes you might have, sometimes you might have professional quality, artist quality. Like I know with Silipacorn, Pradit means student quality, doesn't it? Yeah. So this is the Pradit, student quality, but Silipacorn also make another range, Wichakrong. It's not here, but then the Wichakrong one is artist quality. Yeah, so sometimes that
อาจารย์บอกว่าถ้าให้ระบุไปด้วยว่าถ้าสมมติว่าอันนี้เป็นประดิษฐ์ก็คือเป็นเกรดนักเรียน แต่มันจะมีเกรดที่เป็นอาร์ติสก็จะเรียกอีกชื่อหนึ่งอะไรอย่างเงี้ยครับคือระบุชื่อแบรนด์แล้วก็ระบุที่เขาติดไปด้วยอะไรอย่างเงี้ยอันนี้เลยhow we gain subclass
yeah, because the main ingredient, the main thing,
เมนเกรเดียนคืออะไรสับขา
the binder. So obviously, oil color. Yeah, in that case, the subclass for this is acrylic. Yeah.
หมายถึงมันคือการระบุประเภทของมันระบุไส้ในอ่ะอันนี้ก็คือก็คือเรียนแล้วมันจะก็สีน้ำมันexcuse me I want to know how we can write for this
I don't know, but I do know Silpakorn University paints. These were invented around 2010, I think, 2008, 2010, when it was first introduced.
มีครั้งแรกเท่าไหร่เลยกี่ปี
เท่านี้มันเริ่มล้าว
if we don't know the taste ต้องเปิด introduce
You can just leave it, but you might find out about it one day. Yeah, yeah.
เขาบอกว่าถ้าไม่รู้ก็เปิด
ครั้งแรกที่มันโดนผลิตขึ้นมาเมื่อไหร่แต่ถ้าเราไม่รู้ก็ไม่เป็นไรค่ะข้ามไปได้
Yeah. Yeah. So is this imported or is this from Thailand? This one's in Thailand. This one here,
มันเป็นกาวได้
where does this come from?
ตัวเคลือบบาร์นิชได้
ใช่ปะก็เขียนเป็นฟรอนต์
เป็นตัว
So sometimes you really have to look at the information. Like I can't tell. Do you think they made that here?
so made in
at
France
in China
It's made in China.
yeah
Yeah? So this one is from China. Yeah,
อัน
imported
นี้คือช่องโน
from
เลจ
China.
They ask about
Yeah. So how will we find out more information about this? Do we research it on the internet? Do we, if we're still Silpakorn University, you go and ask them. This one, like just say if you have to find out more about this one in China. I've never heard of this brand. You might want to try and search something about the brand, but also it's got this thing, what DHA Siam. You could contact them and say, oh, do you know any more information? You could also go and ask some artists. Have you ever used this? What shop do you get it from? What shop do you buy it from? Like, where did you buy this, James?
เขาซื้อจากที่ไหนอะ
พอ
for a stationery or in a mall yeah
Yeah, in the market or?
yes
Yeah.
มันหาไม่ได้ทั่วไปเลย
พิงเวโนม
ก็ใช้ทาเคลือบใช้ทา
So do you think, like something like this, it's made in China, it's from a stationery shop,
yes
it's not, is it from an art supply shop? It is from an art supply shop, yeah? So do you think this is good quality or bad quality or less
it's
quality?
like a student grade yeah
Student grade, yeah?
for a beginner
Yeah, beginner's grade, yeah. So how do you know that?
because every child use this
Oh, so you've used it before?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So it's from your experience?
yes
Yeah.
or something like that could be
Yeah,
knowledge.
yeah, could be personal experience. Yeah.
Research,
Yeah,
like
yeah, it's like research, who you talk to find out more information about it.
จากว่าไอ้นี่มาจากไหน
ก็คือเหมือนว่าเรารู้ว่ามันมาจากไหนหรือได้ยังไงเราจะติดต่อไปว่าตัวเองหรืออะไร
and the idea is that you want the knowledge system to be as representative as possible, so not just coming from you. Then you would go and say, ask someone else. Oh, did you also use this? You might want to ask an artist. You might want to go and talk to the art supplier.
มันไม่ควรเป็นเรื่อง personal ไม่ใช่แบบฉันก็รู้มันแต่ว่าต้องเตรียมไปคุยกับคนอื่นเพื่อให้มัน
งานพิเศษของกรอบรูปคืออะไร
อะไรอย่างเงี้ยเพื่อให้มันเป็น personal ของเรา
การเข้ากรอบไม่แต่ purpose คือการเข้ากรอบก็เฟรมนี่เหมือนกัน preparation
So,
can move ออกไป
okay. Yeah, is it okay? Yeah, okay.
บอกไปไม่เหมือนกัน yes แล้วถ้า pop theory เราก็ต้อง
อันเนี้ยครับคือมันมีวิธีการเตรียมต้องเตรียมไว้เพื่ออะไรก็ได้อันนี้เราเป็นเฟรมมิ่งใช่ไหมครับเราจะเขียนว่าเป็นฟอร์มเป็นอันนี้ก็จะเป็นวิธีการที่เราจะเตรียมว่าต้องมีขั้นตอน
เป็นเฟรมมาเนี่ยไม่เป็นไรหรอกฟอร์มเทคนิคฟอร์มเทคนิค
อันนี้มัน
แล้วก็เฟรมมิ่งอ่ะจบ
ดูผสมกัน
ไม่ฟัง
เราจะเป็นผสม
พอพี่ไทยนี่ก็คืออะไรอ่ะ wooden frame
So which one is this one? Okay.
กลัว
คือเราจะตกได้เปล่าไม่กล้าวาง
So an interesting thing is that Liquitex, they actually introduced acrylic paint to the world. They were the first ever company to actually make Liquitex acrylic paint. And it was first introduced in the 1950s in the UK, in the 1955 in America, and then when did it come to Thailand? I don't know.
เราก็ไม่รู้เหมือนกัน
Yeah. So how would you find out? To find out when acrylic artist paint was first available in Thailand. How do you think would be a good way to find that out?
ก็คือ
Like if you go through the catalogue of the Silpakorn University Art Collection, what is the earliest painting in the catalogue which lists it as acrylic on canvas?
เราไม่เข้าใจ
You don't know, but you could find out. Yeah? Yeah?
ก็คือเขาให้ข้อมูลแหละว่าคือเขารู้ว่าสีมันผลิตเมื่อไหร่แต่ว่าเขาไม่รู้ว่าสีเข้ามาในไทยเมื่อไหร่ซึ่งไอโนเลตเนี่ยเราก็อาจจะเขียนว่าเมื่อเรารู้แล้วว่ามันมาเมื่อไหร่เราก็เขียนว่าเราได้ความรู้มาจากไหนมาจากการจากอินเทอร์เน็ตมาจากแคตตาล็อกของเขาหรือว่าอะไรก็
We have like 5-minute lecture.
Oh yeah.
Come through.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
วัสดุเป็นอะไร
เราก็จะทำไง sorry I want to know that if we want to categorize for this but we don't have a label or
I know.
yes what should we do
Well, we know the subclass is
สำหรับ
pigment.
สเตชันแรกของทุกท่านนะคะ
It's a
ขอ
dry
ให้เวลา
pigment.
อีก 5 นาทีสุดท้ายนะคะ แล้วเดี๋ยวเราจะเปลี่ยน
And
เปลี่ยน
it's a
ฐาน
green
นะคะ
pigment. And then you come to the last column, like knowledge system, you might say, oh God, how do I find out more about this? So who would know what that could be? Like what research approach can you take to find out more about that? Do we ask James? Like where did you get it from?
อันนี้มันจะเป็นสีซินเทติกก็เป็นสังเคราะห์แล้วคือสมัยก่อนสีฝุ่นมันจะมาจากธรรมชาติใช่ไหมมาจากหินหรือมาจากอะไรพวกนี้แต่ว่าในปัจจุบันมันไม่ค่อยมีที่มันมาจากธรรมชาติแล้วมันก็เลยกลายเป็นสีสังเคราะห์มาแทนแล้วก็ถ้าทำไมถึงรู้ก็คือใช่สีมันจะมีความต่างกันที่ตัวถ้ามีเทียบกันมันจะเห็น
So where did you get that one from?
สโตร์นานาพันธุ์เนี่ยเดอะสิงคโปร์
Yep. So you purchased it from a shop. So Do you remember what the name of the pigment is?
He don't tell me what the pigment.
No?
I don't know, but I know that it's synthetic, not a natural pigment.
Uh-huh.
Because he says that we can find natural pigment
Uh-huh.
in Thailand for
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
it's synthetic.
So synthetic. Yeah. So James went to the art supply shop and they said, oh, it's a synthetic pigment, and obviously it's green. So then sometimes you might think, oh, how can I actually identify that? So then you might think about going to the scientists and asking them to analyse it, or the conservation specialists. They might know what pigment it is, whether it is synthetic or natural. Because just say an artist used this pigment, you want to know whether it's good quality or less quality to help with the degradation and everything.
It have a natural pigment, but very expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
I think in Thailand almost use this in the Thai painting.
Oh, they do use it. Oh, okay. Oh, so it's a natural pigment. Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Well, you could always go and ask, some of the Silpakorn University scientists and say, what is that?
In the morning, I ask Ajahn Nat.
Yes?
Ajahn Nat don't know what a pigment it is.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah, you see,
find.
yeah. That's good. So that's what the last thing is. The column is about knowledge system. You try and think, oh, if I don't know it, who else knows it? And I can go and ask and find out more. Yeah. So the reason why we're looking at all these materials and trying to work out their origins and their formulations is we want to know how long they last for. These are all very special papers, aren't they? So these are all imported special papers. So these types of papers, do you know whether many artists use those papers, or are they more repair papers for conservation?
เป็นกระดาษสา Mulberry.
They're all a kozo paper? Yeah.
Natural อยู่แล้วก็
Often they're mulberry leaf, aren't they? From mulberry?
Mulberry. But I think it's from Japanese. Koso.
Yeah, kozo paper, so it's usually a mulberry type leaf. Hello. Can you believe 30 minutes has already passed? I know you're probably just getting into it, but today is just a bit of a taste of conservation.
วันนี้เป็นแค่ทดสอบนะคะลองทดสอบทำงานอนุรักษ์กันดูนะคะ
So I hope you all gained a little bit from your workstation. So the idea now is that you will rotate to the next workstation. So everyone who is doing decision making here, you will move to the materials one. The materials one will move to the damage area, and the damaged people will come across to decision making.
กลุ่ม decision making นะคะย้ายไปตรงด้านหลังนะคะที่ material อยู่นะคะส่วนกลุ่ม material ย้ายไปที่กลุ่ม damage แล้วก็ damage ย้ายมาตรงข้างหน้านี้นะคะของ decision making ค่ะรบกวนย้ายเลยนะคะ
So this is a bit of a scenario. Just imagine that this painting is on your desk and the director has said to you, can you do something with this? I think it needs conservation, but I don't know. And so the idea for this practical is to work out, is it worth conserving? Why do we conserve it? And then what our approach should possibly be. So to do that, we have to think about, what is the work? So step 1 on your sheet, it's asking you about what the aims might be for conservation. What is the purpose of conservation? Like after it's finished, where is it going to go? Is we're going to learn anything from the conservation? Is there any interesting information that we can draw from this painting? Is this artist important? Are they going to add information to the art historical record? Can it be exhibited? Can it not? Those types of questions. And the idea is that you share your ideas about the painting and whether it is valuable. And then once you have a shared goal and a commitment to the conservation, then you move to the next step, trying to unravel what the logistics might be towards that conservation process. So this is part of conservation decision making, that you just don't say, oh yes, I'm going to do it, tick. That you actually go through these series of questions and make sure that understanding of different issues is shared between you before you actually commit to conservation, because conservation itself is quite expensive. So we're first working out, is it worth it? Is it worth conserving? So looking at this painting, what is it? Who did it? And is it worth conserving it? There's some questions you might have for it. So anyone have any, from looking at it straight on?
ลองแบบช่วยแชร์ไอเดียกันก่อนค่ะว่าภาพนี้คืออะไรใครน่าจะเป็นคนทำมันแล้วถ้าสมมติว่ามันอยู่ในสภาพที่มันมีความเสียหายเกิดขึ้นอ่ะมันเวิร์สไหมมันควรที่จะต้องบูรณะซ่อมแซมไหมถ้าเราตอบคำถามอันนี้ได้เดี๋ยวถัดไปมันก็จะเป็นคำถามในขั้นถัดไปว่าเราควรจะทำไหมทำอย่างไรต้องแชร์กัน
So what information can you gain from looking at this work so far? What is it?
I think it's oil painting.
Yep. Oil painting? Anyone else have any ideas?
And the layer of the coating one is with เรียกว่าไงไม่ค่อยไม่สม่ำเสมอ
Yep. So you can see some, here it's glossy, here it's not glossy. So maybe someone's tried to, it looks, but see how it's glossy and not glossy in this type of shape. So it looks like it's quite an organised sort of shape. So is this something that, has the artist tried to varnish it like this? Or does this say that maybe there's been a conservation test has been done on this work? What do you think?
อาจารย์บอกว่าเห็นมันเป็นเชฟที่แบบดู organize ดีอย่างนี้ใช่ไหมคะซึ่งมันเป็นไปได้2อย่างระหว่างอาร์ตหรือว่าแบบอาร์ติสศิลปินเขาตั้งใจทำแบบนี้เองหรือว่าจริงๆมันคือเคยได้มีการบูรณะในตรงนี้มาก่อนอาจารย์ก็เลยอยากให้แชร์ว่าคิดว่าน่าจะเป็นแบบไหนคะ
We may not know, and if you don't know, that's fine, but it's just good to raise these ideas, and then you might think, oh, I don't know, maybe I need to go and ask someone else, find out more, ask some more questions about it. So the idea, when you first look at a work, you just brainstorm all the information that you can get from it, and once you write down what information you have, then you can work out what the gaps are and what more questions you can ask about it. So far we think it's an oil painting. It's got some unvarnished areas. What else? What other information can we get from the front of the painting? When do you think it was painted? Who do you think painted it? what is it of?
แล้วสมัยที่เขาก็ได้อายุเท่าไหร่หรืออะไรหรือว่าเกี่ยวกับอะไร อาจจะแอบเป็นชื่อคนเก่งศิลปิน
Has anyone heard of this artist before? Kabuki? Is it Kabuki or maybe Kabku? I don't know whether I can see an I or not. So
Okay, I don't know this artist name before, but I already know Kabuki is the name of the band in Japan. So maybe this is Japanese, I guess.
Yeah, so maybe, we're not sure exactly, but it has some connections with Japan, doesn't it? What about the imagery? What do you think that might be?
Japanese god.
Maybe, it could be. So we're saying to put more ideas into the picture. Is that anything there? Is that a script there or not? Or is that just paint?
หรือว่ามันเป็นสีหรือว่ามันเป็นกลิ่นด้านข้าง
Oh, I think it's just paint. Yes. Yep, it's paint. Well, let's turn it over now and let's see if there's any information on the back.
ลองคลิกดูนะคะน้องอิงเพื่อดูว่าด้านหลังมันอาจจะมีอะไรอยู่ก็ได้
So what you said before, it's looking more likely. Yeah? So each bit of information adds to it each time, yeah? Anyone read Chinese, Japanese characters here? No one? But obviously you would want to know what that means. So then you might think, I know someone who speaks Japanese. Can I show them this to try and find out what that actually says? Yeah? So it's looking like it does have some Japanese origins. So then you might think, how does a painting like this get into Thailand and Silpakorn University collection? But I think, Silpakorn University has this is just questioning. They've got good relationships with Japan. They've got an exchange program. Should I go and ask one of the professors whether, this artist came to Silpakorn University at some stage? So you start, working out the connections and then working out the value of that work. And then you might look at other information on the work. You've got these inscriptions, but what can you say about this strainer? Like, where do you think this strainer comes from? Like, what art materials was this artist using?
Material หน้าตามันเหมือนไม้ลาย
I don't know this.
Yeah.
ที่เป็น
Yeah, it's in good condition, isn't it? So you can go straight to the source. Look at the stamps. It tells you, it's from Europe. It tells you it's linen. Yeah? Also, here's another indication that it's probably imported, F20. This is to do with the sizing and the shape of the auxiliary support, because in France they would have standard sizes, and one way to categorise the standard sizing was with this type of thing, F20, F18. So it's looking like it is European origin, maybe French, don't know. If it was French though, it would be written in French. So why is it using this number, but then in English at the same time? It says it's linen. So then you would look here and you go, does it look like linen? The canvas? Generally, linen canvases do look a little bit more brown, so it's likely to be linen, but you might want to do more investigation. And yeah, this is in really good condition. It's very smooth. It's very light. Yeah, no damage, no insect damage. So this is probably an imported material. So with this work, we're finding out information that it possibly has Japanese connections, possibly European connections too, like it using an imported strainer. And we've probably covered step 1 now to work out what the goals are, what its value, the possible artists, things like that. So then in the next decision-making step, we go to step 2. So what's the first question on step 2?
Step 2 Data and registration.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're starting to look at the records of the institution to find out more information. So how can we find out more information about this work?
Now, ข้อมูลมากขึ้นต้องดูว่า we know material.
Yeah, we know the materials, but we actually can't see any numbers anywhere, can we? There's no registration number anywhere, no catalogue.
Only logo.
Yeah, only this. So it's unknown, so you know you have to ask more questions. We know it's from Silvercorn University collection, so maybe there's a catalogue or something, maybe there's a registration form. Who works in a museum? Anyone work with an institution or museum? No? No?
All our students, universities.
Yeah? Yeah. So many times when things come in for conservation, we'll get all that background information, like the registration number, the artist, the date, all of those things. And that helps conservation work out, when it was made, what materials were possibly used, and puts it into a time frame which helps us with working out our conservation options. So what's the next question there? So obviously we have to find out more from the registration record.
Current condition.
The condition?
Current
Yeah?
condition.
Yeah? So I think you guys did pretty well over there with the condition. So you can start talking about the condition, whether you think it's in good shape or whatever.
It's in good shape, but something on the front that glossy and not glossy is
Yeah, the varnish. Yeah. Yeah, because we can turn it over. In its current shape, do you think it could be exhibited? Put on exhibition? Do you think you could put this one on exhibition? Like just say it was going on an international exhibition or exhibited here at the Bangkok Arts Centre. Do you think that looks good or not?
not look good.
Yeah, you don't think it's... Yeah, so that would be a reason for conserving it, yeah, because of this types of thing. That it's... Why do you think it doesn't look good?
The reflection not alive when you show is not
Yeah.
the same. And I think maybe we leave this area for a long time and we start cracking not what it.
Also the cracking, yes, yes. So you probably want to inspect that area a little bit more to make sure it is stable and then paint's not going to come off, yeah? What's happening up here? Is there cracks up here as well? Or?
างนี่ที่น้ำมันที่แห้งๆกับตกเป็นตำแหน่งแรกนั่งฟังได้
So how about, I think this group is working here. So can you keep working through those questions? And then you have your painting over there to work on, yeah? Okay. And I'm going to move to another table to see how they're going. Okay, so you're right? Yeah, to keep going? Yeah? Okay. So what do you think so far? So have you been working up through the layers? Where is most of the damage?
The first one I saw the damage in the back.
On the back, yep. So that's, can I have a look also? Let's turn it over. Yep, the best way to turn it over, you only need 2 people and you always move it, along the long edge first, and then we would move it along like this and then lay it down like that, yeah? So the first one you filled out was the auxiliary support, yep.
Wood.
Yep, wood, yep. Does this wood look like it's, the corner joins? Yep.
Yes, and have corner joint
Yep.
is 45.
Yep, good. And also you've got these sort of plates over the top, haven't you?
Okay.
Yeah, these wooden plates, securing plates, which help. Why do you think they put this one on top?
I think it's not have a fix. It's kind of for the.
It's to fix the corners, isn't it?
Yes.
Because otherwise the corners will want to move. So this one will keep it more stable. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, it's got lots of staining, it's got holes. Oh, and then look, all the staples. Oops, oh gosh. Lots of staples. What can you say about these staples? What do they look like, these staples? Do they... do they look like new staples or older staples? Is a staple holding it in place okay? They're working, aren't they, the staples? Or, loss along here. So in some cases...
Actually, it's a loss of
Yeah.
2 staples or more.
Yep. So in some cases the staples are not doing their job. Other places it is doing their job. Oh, it's along at this side where it's not really doing its job, isn't it? So another question you might ask later is why? Why here and not up here? Well, what's the difference between that side and that side? You can look at that later.
I think it's when it's a bottom down.
Okay. Yep, so that's the bottom.
Yep.
Yep.
It's damage from the water or something.
Yep. Yep. So you start making those connections. You know, why is it more damaged here? What has it been exposed to? Yes, it's on the bottom. Possibly there's water. Why would you think there was possibly water? What other?
I saw that.
Yep. So you can see the visual damage, like the water damage. Yeah. Also, even if you feel here compared to here, there's a different.
It's thin more than this.
So this feels a little bit weak, doesn't it? And you feel up here, it's a bit stronger. Yeah. So even though it's cut from the same piece of material, because it's been exposed to different environments, being on the bottom, water damage, the top, so it's been more dry, then it's not as weak. So you can see the physical differences. Another thing I'm looking at too are the staples. See how the staples are a little bit corroded. And Shiraporn today was talking about metal and iron corrosion. So this is corrosion that's occurring here, which would happen because exposure to relative humidity or moisture. So you can say, oh, this painting's probably been exposed to, high relative humidity, tropical environment. A risk with these would be that they keep corroding and then stain the textile. See how it's starting to stain here? And then eventually it will put a hole through that textile. So this could be a bit of a high risk sort of thing. It was good you were describing this before. Do you think this wood is, what's the quality of this wood like?
Quality?
Yeah, the quality. Like, where do you think that wood came from? Does it look like they bought that from the shop? Or did they make it themselves?
I think it's from the shop. I'm not sure.
Is it a smooth cut?
I think it's maybe cut by themselves from the
It doesn't look like a commercially bought strainer, like something you get from the art supply shop. No, I don't think so. I think it's probably a material that the artist found and decided to use. Oh, that looks good for a strainer. I'm going to make that myself. So it's probably custom made by the artist. Yeah. So that's interesting because they're using more found materials as opposed to going to the art supply shop. Yep. Good. Will we turn it over again? So we'll put this on the bottom and then just lift it up like this. Change hands. And then bring it around here. So it was here, actually, the damage. But you know how you said that's the bottom?
Yeah, I think. But
that's the top.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you give it installation.
But yeah, they probably stored it.
สเตชันนี้เหลือไว้อีกประมาณ 5 นาทีนะคะ We have 5 minutes left.
Maybe when it's hang on the wall, the water is falling down.
Maybe. It could be either or. Yeah. So either that could tell you, it's a poor storage environment, stored from the ground, or exhibition space. So then you go and ask more questions in the gallery, or go and inspect their storage room. Ask, have you had any floods in your storage room? Have you had any floods in your exhibition area?
Maybe it's a
platform
the air condition.
Yes, always things like this. So you're using the physical object as a clue to go and ask more questions. Yeah? But when it has been exposed to water, what has been the consequence to the image?
I think it's lost some.
Yeah, it's all just. It's like it's been washed away, actually. Yes. Yeah, it's fallen off. It's abraded, isn't it? So this type of damage, we think it's from water damage, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah? Not necessarily from colour fading, is it? Do you think it's from light damage? It's more likely water damage, isn't it?
But because it's maybe a tempera color.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's sort of very matte
Yeah.
and dry looking. Yeah. And we know temperate paints are probably more vulnerable than a oil paint. Oil paints will have longer longevity because they're so water soluble. There's no signature, is there? Any artists?
Signature. Yeah. But I can't read it. But the signature.
So, yeah, no, there's some sort of signature. Sometimes you might need a, better light or UV light, or looking up in the catalogue essay or something. Yeah. Okay, we can use that for the practical on
Yes.
Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah. But you've got your mask on. You've got your
ต้อง
gloves.
ต้องใส่แมสก็คือ for this one we cannot use this table, right? So we have to change a little bit.
Yes, you have to alter it for the different configuration. Yeah. But they're just some generic questions which give you prompts to describe the damage and then work out the connections between different layers. So this is a ground layer, mid layer, yeah. So does it have a ground layer?
I don't.
Maybe it doesn't.
It doesn't have. Just
No.
paint directly on the.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
ก็คือตารางมันสามารถเปลี่ยนได้คือเราอันเนี้ยอย่างที่บอกมันอย่างเมื่อกี้นี่แหละคือมันไม่มีแล้วก็เปลี่ยนตามสภาพของงานที่เราเห็นอยู่ว่าระบบเซมเมนต์เกิดจากอะไรแล้วมันเกิดขึ้นบริเวณพื้นที่ไหนก็ไม่ต้องยึดไม่ต้องยึดชัดๆนะเพราะว่าตารางนี้มันสำหรับพวกเลเยอร์ต่างๆแต่พอเป็นงานเนี้ยมันไม่มีเลเยอร์มันเขียนลงบนตัวชิ้นงานได้เลยใช่มันก็เป็นเทนเลเยอร์อย่างเดียว
งั้นลองไปเน้นเขียนตรงที่เป็นบรรยายน่าจะดีกว่าเพราะข้างหน้า
Why is it more mouldy up in that area and not here?
ตรงนั้นมันน่าจะไปโดนนะมันต้องดูที่ข้างหลังค่ะหนูช่วยกันคิดหน่อยด้านนี้น่าจะเป็นพื้นอ่ะ
Yeah, you'll have to change your gloves.
I think this side is on the bottom with the water.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all this water staining. And you can see how the fibres have all expanded and bulged out. So it's been exposed to water long enough for this to expand, and then the water's embedded inside this fiberboard. It stayed there for a long time, and then allowed this sort of mold.
ก็คือน้ำแค่ทิศเป็นทิศทางของที่โดนน้ำก่อนจนนานจนกระทั่งน้ำมันเข้าไปเสื่อมแล้วก็แบบว่าตรงนี้มันนานพอจนเชื้อราเจริญเติบโตได้ก็คือน้ำมันอาจจะไม่ได้ทั้งหมดก็คือมันส่วนนี้มันน่าจะเป็นส่วนที่จุ่มน้ำแล้วมันก็ซึมมามันดูดขึ้นไปใช่
How are you going? I'm sorry, I haven't gone over here. There's a lot to take on, isn't there?
Yes.
And it can be a little bit confusing. But I knew you two were here, so you all 3, 4, 5 can help work out different things. So I think it's now time to move on to the next one. Yeah? Hi again, everyone. Yes, it's time to move on again, so we're cycling around. So go to the workstation which you haven't gone to yet. Yeah?
ค่ะย้ายไปตรงฐานที่เรายังไม่เคยไปมาก่อนนะคะฐานสุดท้ายของทุกคนค่ะ
To start with this group. So this is your lucky last station.
จบแล้วสุดท้ายแล้วจะได้เบรก
Okay, so this is about decision making. Is it worth it? And you can always use that analogy. I don't know whether you use that here. We call it the 2-minute elevator pitch. That just imagine if you hopped into an elevator with someone very important and you had to sell them the idea very quickly, you could do it in 2 minutes. So what we need to have here is a really strong argument why this is important for conservation and why, what its purpose would be. The purpose might be just restoring the work itself, but what would be the more expanded value of conserving this? Is it just for the artwork itself, or are you going to develop, is it going to be exhibited so more people would learn about the artist? Are we going to learn something about art historical practice with you undertaking the conservation? Are you going to find out more about the artist itself, the art movement, all of those sorts of things? So the first thing is working out, is it important and why to conserve it? So to do that, we have to ask ourselves lots of different questions, so that's why we've got those steps there to help with that decision making. And you've been tasked with looking at this work and finding out, what is this work? Is it important? Does it have any value? And what would be the value of conservation if we did anything? So you have to think, what are the conservation problems with this work too? So just looking at it, what is it? What is the work? Who did the work? Do we know anything about the artist? Is there evidence of who the artist might be? So have a look around. Can you tell me anything? When it was painted? Who painted it? Any evidence? Have a look. Can you see an artist's name anywhere?
ลองดูแล้วก็เขียนอะไรเกี่ยวกับภาพนี้ก็คือแชร์ออกมาได้เลยศิลปินเยอะร่องรอยของอะไร
Many times you don't know. So you can just record what you can in front of you. And there might be information on the front, but there could be some information on the back. So you've looked pretty hard across the painting. Can't find an artist's name, can't find a catalogue number, any other information. So maybe it's time to have a look on the back.
ไม่เจอข้างหน้าจะลองมาดูจากข้างหลังดูค่ะ
Yep, so you can turn it over. So when you turn over, just 2 people need to do it. Yeah?
Sweet.
ชื่อเจ้าของงานอ่านไม่ออกแล้วสะอะไรสะสง่าอะไรไม่รู้
Anyone know that artist? Is it an artist's name? Yeah, it is a name. Is there a date there? A date.
วันที่นี่
no no
So is it just an artist's name there?
เรียกนักศึกษา student ID is a student ID
Oh, student ID. Okay, that's something. So it's a student work. Yeah? But maybe that student became really famous as well. Can't underestimate that. Maybe it's an example of their early work. So there's an artist's name, you've got the student number, so you might want to Google that name. Might want to ask some other artists. If we don't know a date for this work, but that's a student number. So just say you need to find out more about the work. You think, oh, I Google that artist, I work out when that artist was going to art school, then I can sort of work out an approximate date as well. So when was that artist at Silicon University? And that would give you some sort of roundabout date. Yeah. So we're still trying to work out, is it worth conserving this painting? We know there's an artist. We don't know whether the artist is important.
ตอนนี้เรายังไม่รู้แต่ว่าหมายถึงว่าถ้าปกติเราอาจจะลองไป Google ดูก็ได้แล้วคนนี้ก็อาจจะเคยเป็นนักเรียนมาก่อนแล้วก็ศึกษาตอนนี้เราได้ข้อมูลแต่ตอนนี้ก็คือเราไม่รู้
Just say someone came to you and said, "Oh, this painting is taking up space. I want to throw it in the bin." Would you do that?
ถ้ามีคนบอกว่าหูที่ภาพนี้มันใหญ่แล้วมันกินพื้นที่อะไรทิ้งเลยดีกว่าจะทำไหมคะจะทำแบบที่มีคนทิ้งปะไม่
No? So if you say no, that means you think it's valuable. There's something worth keeping.
มีค่าที่จะต้องควรเก็บไว้
So why is it worth keeping?
She said it's beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, that's good. So it has some aesthetic value. It's beautiful. Yeah, it could be put on a wall. Do you think in its current state it could be exhibited?
ถ้าในสภาวะปัจจุบันมันสามารถจัดแสดงได้หรือยังคะยัง
Okay, good. So it can't be. So why can't it be exhibited?
Because you have to fix the screen or have to attach if it has a damage. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a bit damaged. Like there's dirt, there's this tape. Let's have a look at the front. So just two people. We move it on the longer side so we can bring it up like this. Yep, and then bring it round. Yep. And it's beautiful, but it's dirty. Yeah? So they might be reasons to do the conservation. It has aesthetic value. It's an example of a work, a student work at Silvercorn University. And one day we might exhibit it for some exhibition on, I don't know, student training or something at Silvercorn University. But in its current form, it can't be exhibited because there's dirt and insect damage, spider webs and things like this. So the idea is you ask yourself all of these steps and just say if you hopped into the elevator and the director said to you, I've got money, okay, you've got 10 artworks, I've got money only to conserve one, then you can say in 2 minutes why you think this is worth conserving. Yeah, so you have your ideas ready to go to make your case. So we're probably up to step 2 now.
เราจะไปที่สเต็ป2แล้ว
So the first question on step 2 I think is asking about any catalogue or registration information. So usually then you'd go and have a look at some record somewhere. I mean, it's interesting, it's in the Silvercorn University collection, art collection. So you might want to ask why is it in there? It maybe has some importance because it's part of the art collection. So you'd go to them and ask them, why is it in the collection? What is its registration details? So that increases the value of the work. So it's not just being aesthetic, but it might have some other artistic value to Silvercorn University. So the next question there on your sheet is, so the first one was about cataloguing, and yeah. So what we're doing in step 2 is trying to find out all the information we can about it. So the next question is asking about how it was made, what creative processes are part of it. So how do you think this painting was made? Just by looking at it. You don't have to know anything about the artist.
ทำขึ้นมายังไงอะไรนะคะคิดว่าภาพนี้ทำขึ้นมายังไงคือไอ้ขั้นตอนที่2มันเป็นเรื่อง data แล้วก็คือคำถามที่ดูใจก็คือคิดว่าภาพนี้มันทำขึ้นมายังไง ถ้าเขาพยายามอธิบาย
ก็ทำมาจากการเป็นผ้าใบทำมาจากผ้าใบอันนี้คือสีน้ำมัน
canvas
Yeah, it's canvas. Yep, good.
หรือเปล่าสีน้ำมัน
oil paint
Yeah. It's likely to be oil paint,
น่าจะเป็น
but we actually never know. You know how sometimes you look at a painting and you don't know if it's acrylic or oil? Sometimes a bit hard. Sometimes acrylic can be a little bit more plastic looking, a little bit more glossy looking.
บางทีก็ดูยากว่ามันเป็นสีน้ำมันหรือว่าแบบเป็นสีอะคริลิกบางทีสีอะคริลิกมันก็จะ glossy เป็นเงากว่า
And then sometimes the oil paint can be just have more brush strokes,
จะ
you know.
เป็น brush stroke
But yeah, it's like more likely to be oil paint, like you say. Sometimes you can tell whether it's oil versus acrylic too, because oil paints will cure and often crack, create these types of cracks as well. So this is probably more indicative of oil paint sort of cracking all through here. So it's on canvas, oil paint probably. Do you think it has a ground layer on there? Is there a priming layer on there?
คิดว่ามันมีความ
ความเลย
รองพื้นแบบที่เตรียมก่อนที่จะเริ่มทำมีการแบบขับลงมาก่อนอันนี้ไหมแบบเตรียมเฟรมก่อนอันนี้ไหมไม่น่าจะมีจะปาดกันเลยคนละด้านเดิมเพนส่วนใหญ่เรียกว่าอะไร
คิดว่าถ้ามันแคร็กอาจจะไม่ได้เตรียมพื้น
ไม่ได้ขัดเฟรมแต่ว่าอันเดอร์เพนยังไงหรือเปล่าไม่น่าเตรียมน่าจะถึงเฟรมเลยถึงเฟรมก็คงไม่ถึงเจอแล้ว
Good. Good. That's good. Yeah. Sometimes when you look at something straight away, you can't see, but you have to look really close and just find any inconsistencies. So that was good. You saw, oh, it's a bit white up there. If you can't see it from like you can see it here a little bit. So if you looked at it through a magnifying glass, you might be able to find it. If you can't find it on the front, then sometimes you can turn it over. And you can't see whether it's primed from the back, but sometimes you can see, when it turns over around the edge, like this one here, yeah, you can see it, yeah? But here you can't. So there's no evidence on the back really. Or what about up there? See how there's a little edge coming forward there? Can you see whether it's primed along that edge there? Yeah, there's something here. So, you could get your phone, a torch, try and shine it down. You might be able to see something. And sometimes you can't see, so you get something and then go, like push it forward a little bit.
ตะปูเหมือนที่เฟรมมันนั้นที่มันมีตะปู
Oh, look. Do you see that?
แกล้งของเห็นอะไรนะ
So that's white.
เขาให้ดู
Yeah.
ก็คือมันเห็นเขาเรียกเลยนะมันเห็นว่าแบบมันไม่ได้ถูกกันแบบปูอ่ะมันเป็นแบบชั้นแรกแบบซื้อมาแล้วก็ทามาเลยอ่ะI see like
Yeah. So you always just like trying to find all the secret messages. Yeah. In the painting.
yes got it
Yeah. Just look a little bit further. So the creative process, oil painting on canvas, primed canvas. This usually canvas looks quite, it's quite bright, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very white.
Yes.
Usually when something's very white like this, the priming layers is titanium white. Like that's a type of pigment. So it's a contemporary sort of priming. And it looks like it's quite regularly applied as well. Something you might get from the artist shop. Like you know how, something like this. Yeah? Pre-made. It doesn't look like an artist sort of priming. It just looks too perfect. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, that's good. So I think the next question was asking about the condition of the work and its local environment. Okay, I'll let you keep having the discussion. Any questions?
How when the material have no detail or no information on it, how you can tell like the source or the data?
Yeah, so the only way then is to just know your materials and know the quality of the materials.
So
So
if
this is a spun sort of paper, but the fibres, the strength of it is very weak. If I pull this, it's a really weak fabric. Also, the fibres are quite short as well. Like it's very different to. It's very different to this type of paper. This paper is very strong, and the fibres are very long. Yeah, this one's very weak sort of fibres, and it's very lightweight sort of fabric. So it's only really by knowing what it is, and I know from this it's lens tissue. So you know the type of tissue paper you sometimes use to clean a photographic lens, like in photography?
clean lens,
Yeah, to clean lenses. Or sometimes you might use them to clean glasses. It's that type of tissue. Yeah? So it's a very weak sort of tissue. Yeah. So it's unlikely that this is probably used as an artist's material. It's probably used more for conservation material purposes. Yeah. So what other thing were you looking at? What other material?
now we're looking on the color
Yeah?
and try to write the detail on it.
Yeah?
But some of material we just don't know
What it is?
we know what it is, but we don't know when it come from, what
Yeah.
is the company that made.
Nothing.
Nothing. Just
No.
only know the material, what it is.
Yeah, it's a pigment
It's just a pigment.
and it's red.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
red pigment.
And that's really annoying when
Yeah.
you get unlabeled things. So then you've got to do research and dig further. So then you would say, okay, who organised this workshop? Who bought the material? Who purchased the material? So I know James purchased the material.
Just
So
a-
you say, James, where'd you get that material from? What is that material?
So we have to find what.
You have
what
to
is
ask, more questions. Yeah. And just say James had no idea. How then could you work out what material it is? Like a completely unidentified material. What would be another way of researching about this? Who else could we ask questions to about this pigment?
The store.
Yeah, we could go to the store. Yeah. Go to the art supplies shop. We could ask some artists. Do you use red pigment? Does it look like this? If you really wanted to know the identity, you could go to a material scientist. You could say, oh, this artist, famous national artist, uses this red pigment. I want to know what it is. Can you tell me what this pigment is? So you can ask more and more questions. If it's unknown, there are different ways of learning about it. Yeah? So these two are they similar or what's different about them, or they're both yellow?
It's a different type of color. This is watercolor.
Yep, so this one is watercolor.
Small one.
Yeah, that's watercolor. And that's oil paint. Yeah. So what's similar about them? What similarities do they have?
The trademark. Common.
Yeah, maybe they're both Winsor and Newton. Yep. Sometimes you have to look at the fine writing on the back. So see how here I'm starting to try and look at what pigment it is. So this one here says it's cadmium yellow, pale hue. So now I'm looking at the back, and it's permanence A, and it's pigment, gosh, PY175. See that number? So every pigment has a different classification number. Now this one's chrome yellow hue. It doesn't necessarily mean it's chrome yellow pigment. It means it's the hue. So the hue means it just looks like chrome yellow. If I look on the back, these are the types of pigments which are actually used. PY74, PY65, PW6.
PY65. Oh,
Yes.
The one
So there's some pigments here which are the same as here, but not all, because this one also has PY74 and PY6. Now if you looked at these, you would find out what those pigments actually are. PY6 is cadmium yellow. I only know. And these are all universal standards, this terminology. So that's what's similar, is maybe it has similar pigments, but this one's watercolour, this one is oil paint. And we can know it's also because it's got linseed oil. It's listed. Does this one here list what its binder is on the back? No, it doesn't. Yeah? This one does. But we do know it's watercolour. And does anyone know what the binder is in watercolour? What the medium is in watercolour?
The gum.
Yeah, gum Arabic. Yeah? So watercolour, gum Arabic, soluble in water. It has the same PY65 pigment. This one is PY65, but then two other types of yellow pigment, linseed oil in it. But it doesn't include all of the ingredients, it's just the main ingredient. So you know how on that form it says subclass or something, or class?
Or class or subclass?
Yeah, so class. So are these natural materials or synthetic materials? They're sort of natural. Oil is natural. Gum Arabic is natural, isn't it? So they're natural materials, and their subclass, this one would be
Watercolor.
it's watercolour. We know what's in watercolour is gum Arabic. Yeah? This one is an oil colour, and we know that its main binder is linseed oil, and linseed oil is a drying oil. Yeah? But actually the gum Arabic, the subclass of that is gum, just gum. Yeah? So the next question is, when was it available? When was it used? We know historically watercolour was first marketed by Winsor and Newton in 1788, but when did it come to Thailand? We don't know. Someone might write a research paper on that one time. This oil colour paint, we don't know when it was invented, but one way you sometimes going to find out more about it with its batch number. So you see here, There's that little number on the bottom, 733073. That's the batch number. So if you had access to their archives, you'd be able to research that and find out when this was actually made. But it looks like a new one, so it's it's in the 2020s. It's not, from the 1980s or anything like this. So it's a recent one, and it's still used. Yeah, it's used for paintings, for a media layer. So yeah, and then how is it prepared? Well, it's prepared by mixing the binder with the pigment. Yeah. But it's commercially prepared because you can see there it's Winsor & Newton. It's not made by hand, it's proprietary made. Okay, it might be nearly time. Yeah, so what I meant by that was if you don't know something about a certain product, how can you find out more about it? So how can you tap in to different knowledge groups or disciplines to find out more? So we talked about this with the red pigment. You could ask the art supply shop, you could ask the material scientists, you could ask the person who purchased it. It's a way to find out more information.
Another way to find.
Yeah, because always we don't know everything, and we have to go around and make different inquiries outside our own knowledge systems. And so the other question is source. Is it local or imported?
Definitely important.
Yes, definitely. We know Winsor & Newton is English. Actually, I was...
French?
It's funny, it says it's made in France, this one. This one says it's made in France, this one. What
This
does
one, China.
Made in China, yeah. Interesting. Maybe France is making a lot of their... Because this one's an acrylic.
What is
It's made in France, the acrylic. And that one's...
Maybe the material source is easy in French.
Yes. Interesting. These tubes are a little bit different too. Like, see how these are aluminium tubes? And these must be new tubes. Like, I think that's plastic. What do you think?
I think it's plastic.
Yeah. So, I mean, the art supply companies, they started using aluminium in the 20th century, but this looks like a new sort of thing that they've just brought in, this sort of plastic. So that would be another way of dating materials too, is the type of tubing they use. I'm going to check in on another group. Okay, time to wrap up. We're going to finish today around 4:30. So it would be good to share some of our ideas from the practical sessions.
โอเคค่ะ เดี๋ยวให้ทุกคนนะคะหยุดพักปฏิบัติเวิร์กช็อปของเราก่อนนะคะ แล้วเดี๋ยวเราจะมาแรปอัพกัน
So thank you everyone for participating. There was many conversations and many things to share. Some people knew a lot about the different materials and the paintings and damage. And in most cases, there were lots of gaps in knowledge as well.
ก็ขอบคุณทุกคนนะคะที่เข้ามามีส่วนร่วมในทั้ง3ฐานเลยแล้วทุกคนก็ได้แลกเปลี่ยนได้มีบทสนทนาจากการทำงานในใบงานนะคะแต่เราก็จะเห็นว่าโอเคมันจะมีแกปในความรู้ของเราคือมันจะมีเรื่องที่เราไม่สามารถรู้ได้จริงๆ
So the important thing with this session was to have those discussions and to work out what you knew and what you don't know and how you could gather more information from the room or to work out other ways of approaching it to find out more about your question at the time.
สิ่งสำคัญก็คือการที่เราสามารถบอกได้ว่าอะไรที่เรารู้และอะไรที่เราไม่รู้เพื่อสร้างบทสนทนาหรือว่าการอภิปรายเพื่อให้เรารู้ว่าเราจะต้องหาข้อมูลอะไรต่อไปนะคะ
So we had 3 workstations. The practical one was decision making, finding agreement amongst your group about why conservation is important, what the value is, what the purpose of it is, and to work out what you knew about the painting that was ahead of you. And then, do you want to translate?
โอเคค่ะสำหรับสเตชันแรกนะคะซึ่งเป็นเรื่องของ decision making เนี่ยสิ่งที่เราพยายามทำร่วมกันนะคะก็คือการหาข้อตกลงร่วมกันว่าความสำคัญคุณค่าแล้วก็วัตถุประสงค์ของงานศิลปะชิ้นนี้และการบูรณะซ่อมแซมงานศิลปะนี้ถ้าจะมีคืออะไร
And then we had practical 2 with all of those different art materials. There were so many, and it was actually quite confusing about what the material is, what its purpose is, what its composition. But together we sort of started to, you could break down the information and deconstruct, what the origins of that material would be.
ค่ะส่วนกลุ่มที่2ซึ่งทำเรื่องวัสดุอุปกรณ์นะคะก็คือจะเห็นว่ามันมีวัสดุอุปกรณ์มากมายซึ่งเราก็ไม่รู้ว่าอะไรเป็นอะไรแต่ว่าทุกคนน่ะก็ทำงานร่วมกันเพื่อที่จะหาคำตอบว่าแต่ละอย่างเนี่ยมันคืออะไรมีไว้ทำอะไรแล้วเราก็ค่อยๆbreak down ของแต่ละอย่างออกมาเพื่อพยายามที่จะอธิบายมันนะคะ
And then over in this room here, we're looking at damage and deterioration. The idea was to look at the evidence in front of you, break it down into little bite-sized chunks, different layers within a painting, and then try and find connections with the damage with why it might have occurred, like what climate, how it was handled, what it was exposed to.
ส่วนสุดท้ายนะคะกลุ่มที่ทำเรื่องความเสียหายที่เกิดขึ้นกับงานศิลปกรรมนะคะสิ่งที่เราทำกันนะคะก็คือเราได้ดูหลักฐานซึ่งมันแบ่งออกเป็นชิ้นเล็กชิ้นน้อยเพื่อเราก็มาดูว่าชิ้นเล็กชิ้นน้อยเนี่ยเกิดได้รับผลกระทบจากอะไรบ้างสภาพภูมิอากาศหรือเปล่าหรือว่าแมลงรบกวนต่างๆทั้งหมดเนี่ยเพื่อที่จะมาหาความเชื่อมโยงว่าเกิดอะไรขึ้นกับศิลปกรรมเหล่านี้บ้างค่ะ
Some of you might have found that you're more comfortable working at certain workstations and less comfortable in others. And I'm going to do a naughty thing. I'm going to ask someone from each workstation just to share with me what they found was fun and what they found was most unfun.
บางคนอาจจะชอบบางฐานบางคนก็อาจจะไม่ชอบบางฐานเลยเพราะฉะนั้นก็เลยอยากจะขอตัวแทนจากแต่ละสเตชันนะคะให้มาแชร์นิดนึงว่าอะไรที่สนุกอะไรที่แบบไม่สนุกเลย
Well, I'll just start by someone volunteering something.
เอาอาสาสมัครก่อนแล้วกันนะคะพูดค่ะ
Everybody is an expert in the room. Everyone has participated in all the workstations, and no one's idea is more or less important than each other's. So
ไม่มีความเห็นของใครที่ดีหรือด้อยกว่าใคร
ก็คือชอบหมดทุกฐานนะคะเพราะว่าความรู้ในแต่ละฐานเนี่ยมันก็จะแตกต่างกันออกไปอย่างฐานที่1อะค่ะเราก็จะรู้และเข้าใจในเรื่องของการสำรวจเบื้องต้นว่างานศิลปกรรมที่เรามีอยู่อะค่ะหรือว่าที่เราเก็บไว้ในมิวเซียมของเราเนี่ยมันมีส่วนเสียหายตรงไหนอะไรบ้างแล้วถ้ามันเป็นเยอะเราก็จะสามารถแบบว่าส่งซ่อมแซมเบื้องต้นได้อะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะแล้วอย่างฐานที่2เนี่ยค่ะเราก็สามารถระบุและแยกประเภทหรือจำพวกของสีหรือว่า material การใช้ต่างๆเนี่ยได้จากการผลิตจากส่วนผสมอะไรพวกนี้ค่ะแล้วฐานสุดท้ายเนี่ยเราก็จะเหมือนกับว่าได้รู้เชิงลึกเข้าไปอีกว่า ในการสำรวจงานเนี่ยค่ะมันจะต้องดูทุกจุดว่าตรงไหนที่มันเสียหายหรือว่าหมุดอะไรที่แบบว่ามันแม็กไว้กับเฟรมหรืออะไรเงี้ยตรงไหนที่มันถูกเอาออกหรือว่าถูกทำลายไปเงี้ยค่ะเพราะฉะนั้นก็จะเป็นวันนี้ค่ะก็จะเป็นฐานที่ดีทั้ง3ฐานเลยเพราะว่าเราได้เรียนรู้ในกระบวนการที่แตกต่างกันออกไปอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะ
She loved all the stations and she shared her impression on all the workstation. For the first station, she said she has learned like basic exploration of artworks. So she learned how to identify where are all the damages and how they can be treated in case that there are a lot of damages like that. So for the second workstation, she learned how to classify all the materials. She started to think about what are the mixture of each material and where they're from. And for the last workstation, she felt that she learned how to look carefully at every single details of the work of art. For example, she talked about how we have to look for the staple, how many of them have been like losses, and what condition they are in.
Thank you. It's not easy to stand in front of 60 plus people and talk and to share your experience, so thank you very much.
ขอบคุณมากนะคะเพราะว่าการออกมาแชร์ต่อหน้าคนจำนวน60คนไม่ใช่เรื่องง่ายขอบคุณมากค่ะ
ก็จากฐานทั้ง3ฐานที่อาจารย์นิโคถามว่าอันไหนสนุกอันไหนรู้สึกลำบากใจหรืออะไรอย่างเงี้ยนะคะก็คือรู้สึกลำบากใจกับฐานแรกในเรื่องของ decision making เพราะว่าเหมือนกับว่าเรารู้สึกว่าเรายังไม่ได้มีข้อมูลมากเพียงพอที่จะตัดสินใจหรืออะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะแล้วด้วยตัวผลงานเนี่ยก็อาจจะยังอยู่ในสภาพที่ด้วยตาของเรายังรู้สึกว่ามันยังดูโอเคอยู่ยังอยู่ในสภาพที่น่าจะอยู่ในสภาพนี้ไปก่อนอะไรอย่างนี้ได้ค่ะก็เลยรู้สึกว่าฐานนี้มันรู้สึกยากเหมือนกันเนาะมันต้องอาศัยคนหลายๆคนที่จะต้องมาร่วมกันแล้วก็จะต้องมีข้อมูลที่แน่นเพียงพอก่อนที่เราจะทำอะไรการที่เรามาแค่เห็นแบบนี้มันยากนะคะในส่วนของความสนุกก็คือรู้สึกว่าในทุกฐานนะคะได้แชร์ประสบการณ์กับคนอื่นแล้วก็ในเรื่องที่ตัวเองไม่รู้เลยหรืออะไรอย่างเงี้ยก็มีคนที่แบบวิลลิ่งที่จะบอกเราว่ามันคืออะไรอันนี้คืออะไรอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะคือทุกคนก็แบบช่วยแล้วก็แบบให้คำแนะนำใครรู้อะไรก็แบบว่าแชร์กันอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะก็รู้สึกเป็นบรรยากาศที่ดี
Okay, she shared first about what she not like that happy. It means like struggling a bit in the decision making workstation because they don't have like enough information and they have to look at the work of art which is quite in a good decision and so like they don't really know what to decide. It's quite tough and it has to rely on the collaboration of the many people which is actually in the group so that they can like have more information and it actually require like a lot of information to make a decision. So that's what they learn. For the fun part, actually she enjoyed all of the workstations in the sense that everybody always willing to share what they know to the other person.
Yeah. Thank you, another one. A brave one also, so thank you. And yeah, sharing and not knowing is really the first steps towards, building knowledge together. So thank you for that. It's all about collaborative knowledge and conservation. And as I said, 3 people, so I'm looking for one more person. One more.
ก็สวัสดีครับก็ในฐานะที่ผมก็เป็นแบบนักศึกษาที่กำลังเรียนศิลปะอยู่ก็คือส่วนใหญ่อยู่กับการสร้างงานใหม่ๆออกมาก็พอได้มาเวิร์กช็อปได้ดูกันว่างานที่สร้างไปแล้วเก่าไปแล้วเนี่ยสเตจของมันเป็นยังไงว่ามันผ่านอะไรไปบ้างหรือดูว่ามันเกิดอะไรขึ้นกับงานที่มันมีอายุมากขึ้นก็พอมาย้อนกลับดูงานตัวเองก็รู้สึกว่าการที่เราทำงานแล้วเรารู้ material หรือรู้ process บางอย่างของงานเราเนี่ยมันก็ส่งผลดีต่องานเราในอนาคตด้วยเหมือนกันก็รู้สึกว่าเวิร์กช็อปนี้ก็สนุกแล้วก็มีประโยชน์มากครับขอบคุณค่ะ
he shared that as an art student who is still producing his own work, this workshop has provide insight for him to see what happened with the work of art, which could be possibly happened, and what will happen if there are age, and then this kind of process will be beneficial to his own work.
And then we can conserve your work when you become really famous also. So thank you for sharing. Thank you.